Hello everyone, Diabetes II here. Today I'll be talking about the Dragon Warrior Randomizer 2025 Winter League. In this series of videos, the goal is to introduce each flag set for this upcoming event and discuss some of the approaches and strategies an experienced DWR player like myself might take. First, a brief overview of the league. Live racing will begin with 5 weeks of regular season matchups. Players will race in groups of 4 with points assigned depending on finish order, 5 points going to the winner. Group assignments during weeks 1, 2, and 4 are random, while assignments during weeks 3 and 5 will be positional depending on current standings entering those weeks. From there, the top 16 players qualify for playoff elimination rounds, with seeding determined by regular season point totals. Players will continue racing in groups of 4, with the top 2 finishers in each race advancing to the next round. 4 finals participants will face off in a 2-race series, with the fastest aggregate time determining the winner. Players of all skill levels are welcome to join. It is worth noting that all races are held with no prior knowledge of the seed, rotating flag sets for each week are non-standard compared to those usually raced, and various informational resources are available for all players in the DWR Discord. That is to say, newcomers and veterans alike may be facing new and unexpected challenges with less of an experience gap between them as in other formats. If participation as a player is not in the cards, we always have volunteer opportunities available to facilitate our live race broadcasts. Whether as a restreamer, race tracker, or commentator, we greatly appreciate the time and effort dedicated by our volunteers to make these shows happen. No experience is necessary, and we would be happy to get you up to speed should you offer your time. Participant signups are now open and will remain so until Friday, January 31st, 2025 at noon Eastern. A formal reveal of the participant field will be broadcast on Sunday, February 2nd, time to be determined. Regular season racing will begin immediately, with the Final Four to be concluded by the end of March. League launch and update shows, as well as most races, will be broadcast live at twitch.tv/DWRandomizer, and all relevant documents, participant resources, full race calendar, and standings are available via the DWR Discord community. Relevant links in the description below. Let's take a look at the Week 4 flags. Week 4 is titled Random Percent, and random is right. Turns out when you let the randomizer choose what's random or not, you're going to end up with something truly unique. This is the flag set, and a highlighted list of differences from standard flags. As the list just keeps going and going, rather than name them all, I'll take a moment to explain what random percent implies and how a so-called tri-stated flag works. When a flag is tri-stated in the randomizer, you're essentially giving the randomizer to turn that option on or off when a seed is generated. If you were to generate 10 seeds, for example, about half of them would have the option enabled, while the other half would have it disabled. Nothing in the program indicates what the result of this rule is, and nothing in the game explicitly states this either. The only way to determine whether an option has been turned on or off is to play the game. When it comes to flag combinations and interactions, as you might imagine, it would be counterproductive to list every combination here, as there are simply too many to quickly highlight. That said, community members have put together some resources that detail specific interactions that significantly affect gameplay. More information can be found in the DWR Discord. There are 2 flags important to highlight as to how the tri-state option works for them, as it is different than the others: Treasure Guards and Summer Sale. While other flags will be enabled or disabled globally for the seed, Treasure Guards and Summer Sale are tri-state rolled per instant within a seed. That means that each individual key item, Silver Harp, Stones of Sunlight, and Erdrick's token, Sword, and Armor, has a chance of being guarded in the former case, and each piece of sold equipment has a chance to be discounted in the latter. With so many possibilities, virtually any resource can have utility in this flag set depending on how the randomization turns out. That alone can be overwhelming, but better to be prepared and have access if needed than not. One great table to have at your disposal is a list of how to identify whether an option is on or off through gameplay. Some are incredibly obvious, while others are more subtle. Some are not especially relevant to gameplay, while others are hugely impactful. Quickly assessing what parameters you're playing under is a big confidence builder and will help you complete the game more quickly and easily. As noted earlier, I will discuss my thought process in approaching each flag set and note strategic decision making as I go. Of course, your mileage may vary, as not all seeds are created equally, everyone's strategic preferences and risk tolerances may be different, and my ideas may simply not represent the most optimal strategies. Alright, let's get into it. As usual, I'll be providing post-game commentary and analysis as we go through this one. I ran this a couple of weeks ago, so I don't remember all the specific details, although I do have a recollection of the major story beats. I'll be trying to call out strategic decision-making, general approach to the seed and flag set, and of course, calling out any particularly good or bad decisions I make along the way. With this being random % week, there will be a lot of things to try to call out in terms of identifying flags and how things have rolled throughout. It'll be a little bit fast and furious here at the beginning, but hopefully sort of calm down as we figure out what's going on. Well, right off the bat, it appears invisible NPCs and invisible hero have rolled on, so that'll be an interesting one to deal with here. Just keep your eyes focused to the center of the screen, that's where the hero will be. Off with Gold and Fighter's Ring, good for 2 attack power. 5, 11, 21, and 4, that means we'll start with no spells. Pretty meager starting. Strength in particular. Gold in the back chest means no keys will be required for this seed. Looks like the treasury is in its vanilla orientation, so the expanded chest pool or random treasure chests are not on. Erdrick's Armor is a nice pickup there. Gold Grind is available. Last chest appears to be a Cursed Belt. So randomized chest contents is indeed enabled. We knew that from the throne room because the Fighter's Ring wouldn't be there. Now there is technically the remote possibility that the expanded chest pool is still on and we just happen to roll exactly that orientation. The chance is very remote, but nonetheless, we've got the Grave of Garanham here in the basement. And a Rogue Scorpion that sends us back to start. So, probably worth a look right there since he walked all the way to the staircase to at least see if there's anything reasonable that one can pick up. But unfortunately we did not. No reason to chase right back in there, though. As we head outside, we've got a town just to the south. 2 of them, in fact. Town of Cantlin. An annoyance of trying to find the vendor. He can walk across any of these 4 spots. So figuring out where he's standing. And the fact that he can move, we checked all 4 and didn't get him. There he is. What is available? It looks like we've got Summer Sale enabled. Would have been nice to pick up that broadsword, but unfortunately the death in the grave took away half our cash. Let's say initially skipping the middle shop there, but again, no keys in this seed, so no reason not to check. Hand axe would be a great pickup right now. And there indeed is one, not on sale. Again, note, we talked about it in the intro with the tri-state stuff. When it comes to Summer Sale, it's per instance, so some things will be discounted while others won't, whereas with the exception of Treasure Guards, which also will be per instance, everything else will be per seed. So if it's rolled on, it's on for everything. If it's rolled off, it's off for everything. So we got lucky that there were no Treasure Guard guarding the armor, since we certainly wouldn't have been able to take it out this early. 51 south, 46 east coordinates. But that doesn't mean that one of the other key items will not be guarded. Town of Remulder, again, not that critical in this flag set simply because we already effectively have keys. Only 1 treasure chest spot here. And out of Rim we go. pacing back and forth here across the single desert tile that appears to be in Zone 0. Or at least has the chance to be Zone 0. It's not, because the Druin is here. Druin would sleep. Annoying. And with Erdrick's armor, though, we're in good position to still be able to take it out. Only 12 experience, 192 gold is pretty good, and a level up. 0130, pretty meager there at level 2. Again, not the best encounters here, but if we can reliably take them out, then it's worth at least trying to get a couple quick levels here. Based on the map, we can pretty reasonably discern that Big Swamp has not rolled on. Can't say much about spells yet. We don't have level 3. If we pick up heal at level 3, it's a pretty good indicator. Nice crit. And we've got vanilla spells enabled. Not guaranteed, of course. Unless we also get level 4 hurt. Then it's pretty darn likely. Well, there's heal, so I think that pretty closely approximates that we have vanilla spells. So again, a couple things we could factor from that. We're very likely not going to learn Hurt More unless we need to get it to a very high level, level 19. We're pretty much guaranteed to be required to grind to level 17 for Heal More to win this as well. Level 4. Another set of meager stat gains. Again, I think confirmed now vanilla spells, so we're looking for a level 17 grind here. I didn't mention it specifically, but we saw some items that were at their vanilla prices, and things kind of tended to be around what we would have expect, at least in terms of tiering of prices. So the prices are not randomized, it's just summer sale that's been enabled here. Obviously, randomized enemy abilities are on if the Druin has sleep. That's not a vanilla ability. Again, really in the early game, that's a lot of what we're doing here. It's gathering information, it's figuring out what exactly we're dealing with. And some things, like invisible NPCs, invisible hero, it's more of an annoyance than it is really a gameplay challenge to be overcome. But then you have things like random prices that, again, sometimes can be more impactful than other times. Figuring out whether key items are treasure guarded. In this case, fortunately, the armor was not. See if the others are. Another relatively meager set of stat gains. Decent enough in terms of HP. And yes, worth noting that all the NPCs are physically there, so we just heard us bonk in the middle of what seemed to be an empty corridor. That was the guard that's just inside of Cantlin. The NPCs are all there, it's just their sprites are invisible, so collision detection and all that is still in play. Picking up the large shield. Could have gone for broadsword. Quick look at the stats again. 12 strength is really bad for level 5. First slime encounter. Slime actually pretty decent, considering. Electing to stay close to home here. Could expand and kind of seek out some slightly better enemies. But again, with the random rewards, Just because something is a higher tier enemy doesn't necessarily mean that it is going to be more lucrative in terms of the rewards, so we may be best off just sticking around here and fighting things that are really easy. Although, nothing we've seen so far has been especially good. It's not like, oh, the slime's worth 250 XP. It's all pretty bad. But with the low attack power, although we do have a hand axe to help our really bad strength, we only have hurt to do damage in addition, so most of the mid-game enemies are going to be pretty difficult. Take a quick look around. Nothing to the north. A new enemy here in the Magidrake. Weak fire breath. Did a little bit better in terms of the reward. Looking like south was the only way to go. We just happened to go that way because of the plains tiles earlier. Not a whole lot of additional commentary to add here. I think it's, again, good that sticking around and trying to just get some levels here. Definitely walking around, exploring, and dying a bunch without really finding much of anything is going to be somewhat problematic. Can't really say a whole lot about the potential map size, although with 2 locations quite nearby, maybe we have a slightly smaller than normal map. It's not guaranteed by any means, though. 19 attack power, 18 hit points, big level 7. Pretty important there. And the agility is still relatively lacking. I'm gonna try to count. Not the worst idea here. I think it might be a better idea. Since I haven't really explored it all, I suppose that I'm sort of counting and exploring at the same time, so there is a little bit of benefit there. Kind of getting 2 things done at once. Could consider diving back into the grave. Might be a really good use of my time. At least pick up those top 3 treasure chests. If we want to do a grind for equipment, we could set that up right away. I think it's a bit of a miss that I'm not heading back in there. Again, for at least some upgrades. I don't think we saw Flame Sword or Silver Shield specifically, which would be the primary things to grind for, so that could be a reason why not to do it. Also, the risk of treasure guards is also ever present, so if we even did find sword or a quest item, we might not be able to pick it up. Right, off to the east we find the town of Hawksness. We also saw Sharlock Castle across the water there down to the south. Doesn't appear that we can access the entrance. Cave off to the east. Yeah, we're really not strong enough to face the Magic Wyvern yet. Could consider putting it to sleep and poking at it. In fact, should consider putting it to sleep just to run away successfully. I failed to do that and take a death here. Bit of an unforced error. Also, if I didn't mark any sort of, you know, kind of waypoint along the walk there, I might not know exactly what my count was on the tile that I died on and how to get back to it, so we may have to do a recount here or just give up. Again, I think diving into the grave was probably a good decision one of these times. And maybe still holding out hope for a gold grind later on. Once we actually find pieces of equipment we'd want to purchase. Warlock, there we go. There's a worthwhile, lucrative enemy. Been looking for you, sir, for the last 14 minutes. 28 MP. Again, unfortunately, with the vanilla spell list, not the most useful spells that we have here in the early game. I mean, obviously heal is great to have, but hurt is really not going to be better than a physical attack, mostly at this stage, and sleep is helpful. Less so in the vanilla enemy set, which it seems to be what we're dealing with here in terms of enemy stats and resistances. Alright, another new enemy here in the Droll Magi. Let's see what we've got. $197. Okay, let's find more of these, please. Yeah, this makes that earlier grind look a little suspicious for not being very good or efficient. Fighting things that were worth like 15 to 30 XP versus this, which is worth nearly, I mean, 5 to 8 times as much. 21 more hit points is great, good for survivability. Seem to be plentiful here in this zone, which is even better. High encounter rate area with the desert tiles. Just checkbox after checkbox after checkbox. Ooh, unfortunate. Armored Knight, also co-located with the demon, sorry, Droll Magi. And it's got the breath. Uh-oh. That's a problem. Makes that, that zone a little bit less enticing to grind in. Still not chasing down the grave. Perhaps a little tunnel vision-y in my thought process right now. There's the Warlock again. Again, is this the same zone as the Droll Magi and the Armored Knight? If there's two great enemies here, as long as we can, you know, avoid the Armored Knight, which we immediately run back into, it might still be acceptable if we were able to get like 4 or 5 kills in before getting dispatched again. And there's always the chance we successfully run away. Not at this battle, of course, but could be worth still sticking around and trying. Alright, after a couple of unfortunate deaths there to the Armored Knight, gonna take a look back into the grave, see what we're dealing with here. Again, 3 treasure chests on the top. Key items may or may not be guarded, worth keeping in mind. Knight's down here too, not a great enemy for us to encounter. We do have Erdrick's armor, but not a whole lot of agility. Certainly no hurt more to work with. And 4 more run fails leads to yet another death. So do we come back yet again? Or do we go do something else? We're kind of bottlenecked here a little bit. We got a scary zone to the south to navigate through to get anywhere, and we've got at least one pretty nasty enemy here in the grave to try to navigate around as well, to get some treasure chests and maybe dig out some things in the basement if we choose to. Setting up the gold grind doesn't seem to be absolutely essential given what we've seen in the shop so far. Metal Slime, most of the time in this flag set, based on what we've seen so far with vanilla stats but randomized rewards, very unlikely to be worth fighting, because chances are even if we do take it out, it's not going to be worth, at this point, 255 XP. It's very likely to be worth much less. Problem is, it's got so much agility it's hard to run from, so our odds to... the odds for it to just run away or for us to crit it are probably better. So you might as well at least swing, I suppose. Wraith, pretty worthless. Ah, good. Another Axe Knight. Alright, here we go. What do we got? Fairy Water. Cursed Belt. And Herb. No good. Alright, we're gonna make the trip down to the basement. 2 more treasure chests down there. If we can get to them, of course. Again, any key items may be guarded still. We're not sure yet, since we saw Charlock, but I don't think I actually saw the entrance. I could have, and probably should have, walked a little further south. I think we did have some room to see whether or not the bridge is already in place. So Open Charlock is a tri-state in this flag set, so if the bridge is there, as we learn the Rogue Scorpion's also pretty decent in terms of rewards, could be worth fighting with at least hurt for now. Weak Fire Breath is not that much of a problem. But if Charlock is open, that means the quest items won't exist. So the only thing we would be really looking for at this stage would be the sword. Once we find a quest item, on the other hand, we'll know that, by consequence, Charlock must be locked behind the Rainbow Drop, so we will need to find everything and build the Rainbow Bridge. Jeez, this is another one where I don't know the exact stats right now. I know the agility is not great. Potentially could try to put Star Wyverns and other scary enemies to sleep. It's about a coin flip to land, but if your odds to run are better, then you might as well just try to run. Otherwise you're just wasting time. There is a torch. Hey, Red Slime, worth 102. Where were you in Zone 0 when we needed you? There we go, going for the sleep. Again, I don't know what the exact numbers are, but if the agility is low enough, sleep is the more optimal play. At least against enemies for which it's useful, and holy moly. What a middle zone here. Red Dragon Armored Knight. Is this Charlock? Have I been bamboozled? And somehow, despite the odds, we get away from both of them. And get off the floor, even better. I guess we just have to hope that the die was worthwhile. We'll see what here, if we can get to the bottom chest. Might notice a few more bonks than usual, just with the NPCs and the hero being invisible. A little bit difficult to focus visually on kind of a void of space around the center of the screen. Although probably easiest to navigate in the dark caves because of just the narrow field of vision. I really like that I'm leveraging the hurt here against Rogue Scorpions instead of trying to run or just attack through them. Makes a lot of sense. Unfortunately, the dig down here into the basement did not yield anything worthwhile. We get an herb. We also do not have outside. That comes at level 12, which is unfortunately still another whole level away. And it appears that I might try to grind here or look for an enemy to Death Warp on. I don't think I've seen anything specific here, and with the encounter rate being only 1 in 16 on the brick tiles, it may take a while. And with Erdrick's armor on top of it, it also makes it a little bit challenging. It's a much narrower range of enemies or abilities that would need to be present for us to successfully take a death out here. We know the floor above can certainly do it. I don't have so much gold that I'm worried about maybe buying something. You know, we've got some decent enemies here too. This whole zone is actually really good. Again, it's just the encounter rate is not great. We'll see if I elect to continue on here. Fortunately, the levels come pretty quickly in the very fast leveling curve. That's what we're dealing with based on the numbers that we're leveling up at so far. Should be very quickly getting up to level 12. We can learn outside and just dip if we choose to. Probably would make the most sense. And with the very fast leveling curve and the random rewards, it's very... not always, but tends to be very easy to get levels. As a result, we don't want to be in a position where we have a lot of levels and we don't have all the things we need to win the game yet. Then we're just walking around wasting time. Actually, my mistake. This is the fast leveling curve. We hit 3,000. $75% XP. Oh, good. That middle grave zone appears to be this zone, so Red Dragon and Armored Knight to contend with. We are able to escape, fortunately, but that's not a friendly place. Not a friendly place at all. Looks like we're not going to try to count those coordinates out yet again. I never actually went into that cave to the east either. We saw it, but didn't actually enter it. We were stopped by the Magiwyrm before we got there, so that is something that I think I've forgotten at this point, that I didn't actually get into that cave, because that would be a great place to go to next. Maybe it's Mountain Cave with 5 more chests to check, or maybe it's something else that we need. Could be Swamp Cave, we could check out the Spike Tile. Although, not the best ass to try to take one out right now. Nice crit. Magiwyrm not that great. Cave to the north. Okay, well, if this one's the mountain cave, that other one isn't. Poking at some of the enemies in here. Knight's definitely not worth the effort and HP drain. Skeleton not very lucrative, but it's a quick one-shot, so no reason not to take the free 19 XP. The gold may come in handy. Red Dragon, on the other hand, no. Didn't fill up to max hit points, and that comes back to bite me, literally in this case. No treasure chest gotten out of the mountain cave, no gold grind set up. Elected not to go for the gold grind when I outsided out of grave, but again, I haven't actually found, I don't think, Flame Sword or Silver Shield, so there really was no reason to do that. Repel comes at level 15 in vanilla, so... Gosh, this zone! Sharlock Incarnate, Armored Knight, Red Dragon, Wizard. It's basically the bottom zone. Throw a Stoneman in there and you got it all. Back to Hawksness. We're gonna check it. I don't dislike this. There's a couple of enemies, notably the Stoneman and Green Dragon, that we could reasonably take out with Sleep here. Golem. Without the Flute and without Healmore, I don't think that's happening unless it's got some stupid abilities. They cast a whole bunch of Stop Spell and Hurt or something, we might be able to get it done, but otherwise I don't think so. And it appears, based on my movement, kind of counting by twos here, that I did count to Hawksness, and I'm counting from there to try to figure out these coordinates. Still not checking that cave. Again, I don't know if it's occurred to me that I haven't actually walked in there yet. Wow, 4 more locations down here to the southwest. Pretty likely odds, I think, based on that we're dealing with smaller, very small map. Just based on the fact that there's less land area, locations tend to be more clustered. Trying to keep the count here. Where am I relative to where I was trying to go? Ah, I seem to be definitively walking to the spot. Goldman can be a treasure guard. So this may be a guarded search tile item. Goldman's actually not too bad. It is, and it's the stones. Quest item number 1. So that means that Sharlock, although we have not seen the actual entrance, is not open. So we are going to also have to find the token and the harp, do the turn-ins to get access. In a couple of good encounters here, but if this is also that Red Dragon Armored Knight zone, we don't necessarily want to stay here for long. Swamp South. Swamp North in the hilariously accurate orientation. Garenham. I think I'm... well, no, obviously not still full on herbs. Actually, was I ever full on herbs? I guess not. Full of on herbs, probably pick up a dragon scale here, check the shop, look for flame sword, silver shield. Decide whether a gold grind is in the works. Nope. Oh, good. A place where multiple NPCs can be trolling and blocking the way. Oh, Garenham. Gold torch. And an unguarded token. So again, there's the tri-state in action. Had one guarded item and two unguarded ones. That's quest item number 2. And the rainbow drop turn-in. We're not quite ready yet. We're still missing the harp, and we have not located its turn-in yet either. 4th location is Brecconary. Electing not to change... I would say not to check the shop, deciding, well, actually, I probably should. There's the silver shield. Just over 5,000, so deep discount prices. So a gold grind may not be necessary, just fighting enemies and not dying may be enough to get the cash we need. Couple of gold chests randomly mixed in as we seek out the rest of the equipment and key items that we need. Might be enough to get us there. Another location. So it's gonna be the town of Cole. It's the last town we haven't found, unfortunately. A red dragon right outside. And is going to prevent us from actually getting in there to check the search tile. Unfortunate. It's really bad plains tile encounter luck. So again, options at this point, we could head back to Mountain Cave. We've got 5 treasure chests there, plus we can set up a gold grind to get that silver shield. Continue exploration in that direction as well. We certainly didn't finish things off. We've got that cave to the east that I've yet to actually walk into, which at this point would have to be tablet, stones, or staff turn-in. Don't have the harp yet, so that would be the miss in that circumstance. We could also just go right back to Cole. I think without the flute, heading back to Hawksness to try to take out the golem isn't the play by any means. See how little damage we're doing to the Rogue Scorpion. Just don't have the attack power yet. And you shouldn't be fighting this, at least not without casting Sleep, but probably just not at all because the reward is not very good. One thing I definitely recommend doing, or at least if you have a great memory, you can do it that way. I tend to take a lot of notes as I play, and I did not have a list of enemies where I was taking notes as to whether or not they were worth or not worth fighting. So I definitely have a tendency here to fight a thing or two that I have already seen that I know is bad. For some reason, still fighting it even though I saw it 5 seconds ago and it's not bad, or it's not good. Staff Cave was the the cave that I had not actually walked into, so no loss by not walking in there earlier. So we're heading in a different direction that we hadn't yet, and this is another cave. It's going to be tablet or stones. It's the stones cave. The gentleman is still there guarding the chest, so we have to walk around him. Did I not buy a dragon scale? Apparently I didn't earlier in Garenham. But we do find one, so there you go. Alright, nothing else here to the north. Drill Magi, again, a pretty solid enemy. Could be part of that nasty red dragon zone, so we probably don't want to stick around here. Although I suppose it could be part of the grave zone, which might be worthwhile. Learning the spell of return. Werewolf? We hadn't seen that. It's certainly possible that Drill Magi is in 3 different enemy zones. Or I could have crossed a zone boundary east and west here. Not liking the odds on this one. And if anything, I should be heading over to the east and seeing if it's that zone. It appears that it's just another different zone, and it's not particularly good. Or I just haven't moved far enough east. It is one thing about the smaller maps here, is that they still get tightened to the center of the 120 by 120 that the map overall can be generated onto. It's just that they don't extend to the edges, and as a result you don't see those flat parts where the map ends in the smaller maps, and because of that it's harder to determine, at least from the edges, exactly where the grid lays in terms of zones. The werewolf actually isn't that bad. It's a little bit high HP in terms of ease of defeating it, but 91 hit points or 91 XP is not... It's not bad, it's not great. Much rather fight a warlock and get a little bit more for a one-swing win. Certainly not the worst, though. I also haven't taken a look. It's not likely that a spike tile will be an optimal play in this circumstance. As we've seen, some of the really strong enemies here don't give much in terms of reward, and some of the weak ones give great rewards. But the odds that whatever is in the swamp cave, in this case the golem, is still off the table without Healmore or the flute. But it's unlikely that whatever's in the swamp cave is actually a good grind. But it's at least worth checking. Because if it is, in that rare circumstance, it's probably a lot better than pacing around in the desert looking for the 1 or 2 good enemies in the zone that are actually lucrative to fight. And I really should stop fighting the Magi Wyverns. I really should be running away from those. It's not worth 30-something XP. Especially when you have an easier enemy right here that's worth nearly 200. Maybe just trying to get level 14 here. 5625 experience will do it. One more decent enemy after the Drill Magi here will get it. In fact, it would have to be another Drill Magi from what we've seen in the zone. Werewolf is not enough. Droll? I haven't seen a droll the whole time we've been walking around here. It's only worth 38, but it is enough to get to level 14. We'll take it. 210, 22 hit points is nice. We already had pretty good hit points to start with, so that's not exactly what we were looking for, but never hurts to have more. Sticking around, again, I don't like this decision in retrospect. I don't think this zone is good enough to warrant sticking around, and maybe I've just decided that now. It's like, you know what, this is not working. There's gotta be something better. One really good enemy, one decent enemy, and the rest trash is not ideal. Question now is, I've got over 4,000 gold in my pocket. Do I want to try to dig out Mountain Cave, which is just northwest across this bridge, knowing that there's red dragons and probably armored knights in there? I guess I can always do a gold grind out if I need to. Or force a grind, I should say, after the fact. But if there's nothing else in this direction, you want to try to clear that now and not have to ever come back. Did I get the first chest the first time and forget? Well, depending on what's there, if I didn't already get it, that could be a mistake. I thought I died before I even got to it. So that's not great. I may also be just playing the odds here and saying, I want to get out of this zone as quickly as possible, but I think at this stage of the game we should be much more well-equipped to handle and get away from those scary enemies. We also have a ton more hit points to survive a couple of hits. There's the fairy flute. That's going to open up the golem encounter. More money. We now have enough for Silver Shield. Nearly equal amounts of gold and experience in my pocket right now. Nothing in the final chest. So the flute, again, not technically required, but certainly I think going to be very important. Otherwise we'd need level 17 to take out the golem. To be fair, we are going to need level 17 to win the game in the first place, but better to have everything already set at that point rather than still have to fight the golem, assuming that there's going to be the sword or the harp there, and then do the turn-ins or whatever. Or, I mean, if it's the sword, it would mean that we probably have been grinding inefficiently to that point with just, I think in this case, a hand axe. Or if it's the harp, then we still have to go and do the turn-in and then get the rainbow drop and then head into Sharlock. Although, in that case, they're kind of in order. Right directly east of Hawksness is the staff turn-in, and then down south near our cluster of locations is the Rainbow Drop Cave in the back of Garenham, so we can heal up, do our turn-in, and be off into Sharlock in rapid succession. Alrighty, Hawksness it is. I haven't actually checked the enemies in here to see if they're decent. Druinlord with the weak fire breath is very fightable. Respectable 81 XP, not bad. Rogue Scorpion's another decent target here. Again, you can see how meager the attack power is with how little damage we're doing to the Rogue Scorpion, so Urdrick's armor would be really nice. Sorry, Urdrick's sword, rather. And this isn't a guaranteed fight by any means with the number of swings it's going to take. If the golem wakes up on basically every turn, punches us, even if we were to cast heal a couple of times, if it continues to wake up, it's going to out-damage us. Unless it's got something like Hurt. In which case we probably could have done this a while ago, even without the flute. $43 XP, not very good. And it's the Death Necklace. So, a couple things to factor in there. Tri-stated Death Necklace. We don't know if it's actually going to grant the Randomizer boosts. So, in Randomizer only, the Death Necklace grants 10 extra attack power at the cost of 25% of your max hit points. With it being tri-stated, we're not sure if it's actually going to do that or not. That said, if the flag is turned off, you have the vanilla 1 in 32 chance to actually find the Death Necklace in the treasure chest or search spot that it's available at. So, having found it, it's very, very, very likely it's in play, but there's technically a 3% chance that we were misled and we actually got that 1 in 32 Death Necklace pickup, and it actually won't do any benefit. If, on the other hand, you find the small pile of gold, it's big in the vanilla game, but small in the context of Randomizer. If you get that 100 to whatever it is, 128, 127 gold chest, then you know for sure that the Death Necklace is off. And you can't rely on it. Alright, this time we get into Cole. What did we miss out on earlier after the Red Dragon so rudely prevented us from accessing the town? We killed the Wizard Guard, and it's the Silver Harp. So had we gotten this earlier, we could have done our turn-ins earlier, but at least we didn't miss out on the sword, I suppose, for better, more optimal level grinding to this point. There's confirmation that Sharlock is indeed not open, although we already know that since we've been finding all the quest items. So the last thing we've yet to find is the Tablet Cave. That's the last place that the sword can be outside of Sharlock. It still will be worth checking Sharlock once we do the turn-ins, because Short Sharlock is also a flag in the Tri-State. So if Short Sharlock is enabled, we will walk inside and be on the bottom floor. If the sword is there, we can just head straight to the treasury and very quickly determine whether or not it's there or somewhere upstairs in the vanilla spot. Also would be good for us for grinding purposes. If, on the other hand, it's full Sharlock, do we really want to dig all the way down for just the sword? It also does help us prepare and analyze, preparedness stat-wise. If we only have to do a one-floor Sharlock dive, it's a lot more tenable than a full Sharlock dive. If we were to have, let's say, marginal hit points or agility or something. It's not the case here. Agility might not be great, but hit points are definitely very strong. Alright, it's the Tablet Cave, just here west of Sharlock. One treasure chest here, no encounters. Will it be the sword or not? It's not. The sword is in Sharlock Castle. Of gold that was found, an amount that is not equivalent to an Erdrick sword. So money play right now, definitely going back to the staff turn-in to get that, and then into Garenham to do the rainbow drop turn-in. Head into Sharlock, at least we'll check it out, and then determine whether or not we want to dive for sword, which I think the answer to that is probably no. We'll want to pick that up when we're ready to go, get it on the way to the Dragon Lord, and then just fight him. And do we grind here on some of these overworld enemies? This looks to be the same zone with the Droll Magi and the stuff that we saw to the northeast, here around the cluster of towns. Again, not a great zone, but As long as we keep running into Drill Magi, it's fine. Could consider grinding there. Could head into the Swamp Cave just to see what enemy is there. And whether or not it's worth anything. We're going to need to get to 12,000 experience for level 17, so we're kind of locked into getting at least another 3,700 or so XP. Generally speaking, the big enemies are not even worth testing out here. I mean, is the Blue Dragon worth like 350? Maybe. But it's probably not worth checking, because the odds are that it's going to be not worth much of anything. I think I'm forgetting something kind of important. Fortunately, it's a very short walk. Yeah. Need the rainbow drop to build the bridge, can't just have all the items in the inventory. Running into the NPCs, Garenham's probably one of the worst for it, just because there are so many that not only are in the town is very narrow, they block that way toward the door back here, and then multiple that are moving around in this little enclosed area as well. Alright, there's the drop. I did come right back in and heal. Again, if we're just gonna check and see what Charlock looks like, it's probably not really necessary to fill the extra 12 MP here. Certainly can't dive and win at level 15. Theoretically, I suppose it is possible to go dive and somehow grind and win all in one trip, but I think the odds of that are pretty low and not a very good strategic play. Careful not to miss menu there. When you're used to having herbs in the top slot and keys always in the second slot, Rainbow Drop is always going to be number 3 in that orientation, so it's easy to menu down twice automatically, but with no keys, it's one spot less. Alright, it is not short Charlock, we've got the full dive ahead of us. With a hand axe in tow, really not... This is not a good idea. Yeah. Where are we headed? We see something lucrative over here. And that's another thing that's really important. It's not just which enemies are good versus not. Wraith Knight 112 is pretty decent. If it's co-located with the Drill Magi, that's pretty good. Both of those are well worth fighting. But annotating exactly where the enemies are located is also really important. Because it's one thing to know, okay, yeah, Drill Magi 197 or 200-ish. Doesn't need to be perfectly accurate. What's worth 200-ish? That's definitely worth fighting. If you can't find it later, that information doesn't do you that much good. Spectre is also here, and Spectre, oh wow. I defeated Spectre earlier, and I don't think I noticed that it was as good as it is. This is probably the best zone that we've seen, and really an area that we probably should have spent more time in. Unfortunately, we got bopped by the Red Dragon before we went into Coal, and then saw this earlier, and ended up doing a bunch of grinding in a less efficient area. them's the break. Sometimes the game has different plans for you. Again, differential decision-making. If random XP weren't enabled here, knowing that at like level 15, or potentially even level 14, that I was going to have to grind to 17, and I'd be either grinding a golem or whatever's on the spike tile in the swamp cave, at least one might consider diving Charlock for the sword and the extra 25 attack power, considering I don't think I ever located a flame sword. That said, in this case, because the golem has hurt, it's probably just straight fightable. Again, it's one of those things, there are so many things to account for in this random percent setup that the individual combination of flags and how they roll is going to be very different for every seed. I mean, think of all the things that we've been dealing with in this case, where we have random prices off, but summer sale is on, and importantly for some of the particular items that we've wanted to purchase, like the Silver Shield. That we're dealing with vanilla enemy stats, but randomized enemy battle rewards. That we're dealing with some treasure guards, but the treasure guard over the armor, for example, wasn't there. So we were able to pick that up very early. If that weren't the case, you know, if we had to dig out all the other different chest locations as opposed to just the vanilla ones, since that was not randomized. So lots and lots and lots of things could have gone very differently, and each combination is going to lead to a very different experience, and I think that's what makes the random percent, on one hand, very challenging to understand, manage, and make good decisions based on, at least at first, but also makes it very interesting and fun, since although new two seeds are directly alike anyway, it is a randomizer after all. But the approach and strategy and decision-making that goes into every seed is that much more diverse. It's really a cool option that we have here. And I don't have a firm grasp of the stats, but based on the hit points being what they are, we're Death Necklace safe if we choose to put it on, which I imagine that I probably would. We have at least 12 heal mores, and I think at level 16 we probably picked up enough for at least one more. We got level 17 stats to look forward to as well. I imagine that level 17 is going to be the go level here, kind of regardless of what the stat gains are. I could be wrong, because I'm not actually looking at the numbers, but we'll see. It appears I have decided quite quickly that despite very meager gains at 17, we should be good to go. Although I'm still fighting, curiously. Now, while a dive and grind Charlock situation is certainly not optimal, but more in the cards under standard flags with vanilla XP and rewards from enemies, XP and gold. Again, we don't know of any Charlock tier enemies that really give good yields. Werewolf is okay, but 14,250 for the level, we'd have to defeat like 25 of them to get the level? 20 of them, give or take? Like, that's not gonna happen, even if they were in every zone. So either I'm unconvinced and maybe perhaps trying to do the math real quick and determine whether or not I want to go for this or not. Ah, I see what I'm doing, and I know a critical mistake that I just made. So, we are heading over to Breckenary, and why Breckenary versus the other town that was closer? That was Garenham. What's special about Breckenary? Breckenary sells fairy water. And fairy water is going to do more damage if we have less than 134 attack. Fairy water rolls 9 to 16 damage, and it's not until 134 that you roll 8 to 17 with physical attacks, which is the rough equivalent of the 12.5 average. So, one of the other tri-states this week is whether or not battle torches and fairy water are enabled. At no point in this seed yet have I tried to throw a torch or fairy water in battle. I had one in the inventory, and it's a good policy early on, or at any point. You have a torch, you want to get rid of it because you don't need it for lighting up the dark. Just throw it. Just throw it at an enemy that's relatively safe to do so. You'll get that piece of information. I haven't checked, so I've dumped time and the inventory to picking up that fairy water, and I don't know if it's going to work or not. And not only that, we're going back to the grind, it seems. So I really should throw a fairy water here, and then I would either have to go back and replace that one, or just deal with the fact that I would be down one. Okay, confirmation. That cannot be used in battle, so battle fairy waters and torches not enabled here. So they are going to be good for repel through Sharlock, but nothing else. In which case I didn't need to spend the time dumping the inventory and getting 6 of them. We could have been perfectly happy with 3. But that also means that whatever perhaps calculation I've done at this stage to say, okay, well, it's going to be, I've got 13 heal mores, it's going to be like 19 attacks to win, but if I use fairy waters, it's like 17 attacks, and it's good enough, or it's close enough that with double attacks I could do it. And now it may be like, you know what, it's just too risky. Even with the death necklace, even with the sword, it's not enough. The levels also are going to come fairly quickly because of the enemy set here, so some of the decision making, at least that I do, we haven't talked about it specifically in any of these, but since these are group of 4 runs as opposed to, let's say, heads up runs or even larger group runs, I have a tendency to personally play in such a way that I might not be obviously I want to win, but I'm not necessarily trying to win. I'm trying more to, let's say, finish in the top 2 or not finish in the bottom 2. So I may play a little bit more conservatively as we caught a quick flash of the stats there. Yeah, only less than 120 attack power is not ideal. Although with the death necklace, the numbers are better, but certainly not over 134. Agility is also okay, not perfect. So if we were to burn any resources along the way, we would potentially be in trouble. But that does lend me, or tend to kind of push me to maybe overgrind a level, maybe be a fraction conservative at times. And your personal playstyle and preferences when it comes to group racing versus individual heads-up racing or otherwise may be different. 1 experience point away from level 18. Drakey is enough. Is 18 enough? 3, 6, 22 hit points. I think that's going to be the thing that actually pushes it over the edge. No extra MP, so there's really no reason to go back and heal. The 22 hit points is probably more important from the perspective of now, even with the death necklace, we have decent odds of getting double attacks, so it's worth it to just go ahead and try to win now. Might take a lot of swings, but it should be safe. I didn't quite catch the defense number either, but we probably are repelling at least a couple of enemies here in Sharlock. If you have the Silver Shield, almost certainly the Wizard's going to be in play. As long as you've got 60 agility, and we know that it's much higher than that. May also be repelling at least the Werewolf and Star Wyvern at 86, and the Green Dragon at 88. We know that we're not repelling the Axe Knight at 94. But you need agility at nearly 90 for that to be the case anyway. That's pretty uncommon at most Go levels. Okay, the Armored Knight's in this middle zone, a little on the scary side. Again, not perfect agility, and even if we did have better agility than we have, Dragonlord Breath can be a bit on the nasty side. We're able to get away, though. Moving here into the bottom zone, Blue Dragon. Not a big deal. I do have to remember, and I've been guilty of it in the past, of forgetting to pick up the sword in a situation like this, as we discover armored knights are here in the bottom zone as well. But I am heading over toward the treasury, which is good. Again, skipping the upstairs chest, 1 in 7 chance of vanilla sword usually is not worth mathematically pursuing. We find gold, wings, herb, gold, uh-oh. Gold, uh-oh. 50-50. Gold, uh-oh. Uh-oh. I seem to be missing something important that maybe, apparently, the math did not account for. And that is the fact that the sword is upstairs. Welp. The 1 in 7 chance, 14-ish%. And the worst thing about it is that now we have to walk through this zone 2 more times of armored knights. Yikes. Big yikes, in fact. The only time I would typically pursue this chest first is if I were looking for at least 2 things. Let's say both the armor and the sword, and then perhaps like the fighter's ring if I thought it was critical, or maybe the fairy flute if I know or suspect that there's a golem on the spike tile or something like that. Maybe I would pursue it first, because again, I'm not just looking for 1 thing, I'm looking for 3, so the odds of one of them being here is better. Anyway. Alright, this is a treasure guard. The Star Wyvern we should be repelling. Although it is a Sharlock enemy in its own right. So it could have been there. Is indeed Erdrick's sword, so we now have the 25 attack power boost. And back into the Armored Knight zone, although the Armored Knights were here in the middle zone as well, we just really didn't encounter them there again, which is good. So far, from what we've seen, they're probably the only enemy that strikes a little bit of fear into our hearts here. Although again, not actually seeing the values, we might have the ability to spend a heal more or 2 and still be safe. I am very glad that I checked, as I should have much earlier, that Fairy Waters and Torches were, in this case, not available to use in battle, because we almost certainly would have gone a level earlier, and we may have been very, very surprised to see that, uh-oh, it's going to be a much harder fight than we thought. Red Dragon on the Sharlock spike tile, not a problem. That was pretty lucrative, too, 268. Not sure if that would have been a viable grind, because it would take a lot of resources, but if we did an early sword dive, that turns out it might not have actually been the worst, because we would have been down here already anyway. Hold B. Be declared a fool. Put on the death necklace. We do this usually during DL1. It doesn't take effect during this fight, either the HP penalty or the extra attack power, but it gives us a little bit of buffer room to make sure that we maintain max hit points. And we really probably don't need it against DL1 so much as we need it against 2. If we were to use it before the first fight, it would automatically decrease our hit points from 160 whatever that we currently had, down to the 120 something that it's going to be post-Death Necklace. Well, we baited out, or tried to bait out a stop spell or physical attack. We were not successful, so we're going to go in at 107. 13 heal mores. It's not a Chaos Dragon Lord, so you will not have randomized abilities. You also will not have randomized max hit points. They will be between 150 and 165. Looks like max hit points of 125 post-Death Necklace is really strong. So the odds of doubles here are quite high as we get one there. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I would suspect this is not a free fight, but a fairly comfortable one. It does rely on a little bit of luck getting the appropriate number of doubles, but still. Now, even post-Death Necklace, a 7 roll there means that attack power can't be higher than 131. Even with the extra level, so Fairy Waters would still be optimal should they have rolled into an active state for battle use. Another guaranteed double here. The numbers have not been great in terms of attacks, but that's okay. And we have a lot of swings to our name. And menuing is also a little bit of something to keep in mind as we do wrap up the Dragon Lord fight here with 2 heal mores to spare. With no hurt more at level 17, or 18 in this case. You have to be a little bit more careful with your menuing. Normally it's up 2 to get to heal more. In this case, it's only up 1. Alright, here we go. 111.02. Not too shabby. Certainly could have been better. Again, some inefficient grinding at a couple of spots here. The very, very early game, the enemies that we were grinding on, although very safe, were just very not worth much. I'm not sure if there was a better option, really. We didn't, as we kind of went on through the seed, we would have had to go through that very dicey bottleneck zone to the south to really get anywhere. There was that time. The time spent up in the northeast with those like Drakies and werewolves and things was not ideal. But I think eventually we did find the exact right place at the end. It's just a matter of whether or not we could have been there earlier with a couple of different decisions and maybe a little bit better luck. Other than that, I think at least reasonably well played, for the most part. Good decision-making in the end game for the level that was chosen. Good catch on the Fairy Water, and knowing that that was not available in battle. And again, technically speaking, I had a 3% chance that I was going to put that Death Necklace on and it wasn't going to work for me. There's nothing else I can do other than go to the king, save, try it, check the stats, see what happens, and go back on. So, I mean, there are strategies to deal with pretty much everything, and I think we highlighted that very well throughout the seed here, so there you go. Again, very fun flag set, very fun way of playing the game. Is a little bit stressful, especially in the early game when there's a ton of information being thrown at you and you needing to really kind of determine, based on A, then what do I do about B, what about B, then what do I do with C, type of thing, where you're trying to figure out how you need to approach a seed. But once you get the hang of it, and once you make those identifiers, it really is a lot of fun. Well, as the vanilla credits roll out here, and we get into the randomized stat crawl, that's going to do it for me. Hopefully this introduction and playthrough were helpful in highlighting some of the unique challenges of this flag set, as well as some strategies and resources to overcome them. I hope you will consider joining us in the 2025 Dragon Warrior Randomizer Winter League as a player, volunteer, or audience member. Relevant documentation about the league and a link to the DWR Discord are available in the description. If you enjoyed the content, please like and comment below. Also feel free to join me at twitch.tv/diabetes2 for live DWR racing and other gameplay. Thanks again for watching, have a good day, and we will see you next time.